Okay, Mr. Robbins is back today with Tools Education 101. So we're going to start, and I'm going to show you how to use the handsaw today. A lot of times when you have to cut something off, you have to cut it, you have too big a board, and you have to cut some of it off so you can work with a smaller piece. So today, if I needed this small section over here, I would use a tri-square to mark a straight line across there, nice and dark. With the tri-square, remember we learned how to use tri-square. If this is where I'm going to use as my good piece of wood, I want to cut on the outside this direction here from my line, which I drew right there. Okay, so grab the handsaw, and the handsaw is used. And what you do is, and you see my thumb here, I'm going to start about maybe a ½ inch to a ¼ inch away from my line, and just draw it back. Draw the saw back as I go. Until I get a little groove in there. Again, using my thumb to make sure the saw stays in the same place. And then as I get it, and I'm going to show you to hold it tight on this board, cutting this big piece of wood, I'm going to use a hand screw clamp, okay, which you'll be learning what these are later. But use a hand screw clamp to hold the wood down while I cut it. So we'll tighten that up to hold it. Like so. And then I've got a little notch in there. And so I'm just going to draw the saw back until I get it. And then I can take little short strokes forward, okay? Now, a couple things to notice as I'm cutting this. First of all, this is a really thick piece of wood. This is like a 2x6, maybe a 2x80. Okay, now notice the angle of the saw is probably about 30 to 45 degrees, the angle. You don't put it flat like this, and you don't put it like this, okay? Other mistakes that people make, they use two hands on the saw. It's not two. You use one to hold the material, the other to use your arm, and you let the saw do the cutting. The saw, the way the teeth are here, and I don't know if you can see that or not on here, but the teeth are laying forward, okay, which means it's going to cut on the forward stroke. Okay, so I push it down in there, then pull it back, then push it down in and pull it back. And that, so you can do that a little faster. You can see here. Now, a couple things to notice here. Notice I'm staying on the outside of my line. This is my good piece of wood over here, so I want to stay outside that line there. Okay, and use nice long strokes to cut. Okay? You don't use what I call the chipmunk method, okay? The chipmunk method is just where you use about 2 inches of the saw to go real fast, and you're not going to get it cut very well. Use nice long strokes, and it does take a few minutes to cut through. And when you guys, if you get a chance to practice this, if your parents have a handsaw, you can practice it. Again, cutting on the downward stroke. Forward, drag it back. Forward, drag it back. Forward, like that. Only as you can see here, I do it a little bit faster to keep it going. But that's how we're going to cut. Now, when you finish up, you have to be careful because it'll splinter out here and break the back part of the wood out here if you keep going fast. So as we get closer to the end, we want to slow down and not put as much pressure on the saw. And we're not going to try. You don't want to grab this other piece over here or have somebody hold it because it'll have a tendency to pinch the saw right here, and you won't be able to saw with it. Actually, on the saw here, this right here, one tooth is angled, and I don't know if you can see this or not. Let me see if I can get up here. If you look at it really closely, one tooth is angled out this way toward me, the next tooth is angled back the other way. So they're actually, and that creates about an 1/8 of an inch cut where the saw back here doesn't bind. If they were all just straight, you'd have trouble with the saw binding back there, and it's hard to cut. That's called a curve. The saw curve is how much angle there is between it. And as you can see, I'm getting close to the end here. down. I'm just going to let that piece fall off of there. Okay, and the piece falls off there. Then I can take this and draw whatever pieces I want to draw on this piece of wood. And that's basically how you use the handsaw. Okay.